Hey guys, Jack from Fantasy Can here, and I'm here to talk to you this week about draft value, and we're going to look at some players that will help you optimize the value of your team. So, let's get on to this week's episode of some guy in his mom's basement talking to you about fantasy football. When you're drafting your fantasy team, you have one thing really in mind. End up with the best team and win your league. So, I'm going to talk to you about drafting players that are good value, which is a great way for you to get the best team that you can possibly get that's available to you. Now, it's really easy to draft players of value if you know which ones have it and which ones don't. A player with high value, one that I like to look at, would be like Le'Veon Bell. Really simple, easy. This one's really easy to look at. You know that he's going to be picked the first couple picks of the draft, so you know that you're getting a good value pick, and you know that he's bringing a lot to you, especially for that first round pick. Then you look at later in the draft, you can look at people like Jordan Howard this year, who I'm going to talk about a little bit later. And he's going a little bit later, but he's still an RB1. Was great last year, so you know that you're getting a lot of value for the pick that you use. This is important to you because of a couple reasons. You really want to make sure that you have the deepest team possible when you start your draft. That's like one of the most important things you can really do as a fantasy football player. So here's a list of examples of a couple of players who I think are really high value. So first couple rounds, most of them have a lot of value. You look at Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott, all those guys, super like crazy high value because you know what they're going to put in week in, week out. And value also comes in when you look at where you're drafting each person. You know that you're drafting those guys in the first round because they're the best players in the league, best players for your fantasy team. It's really simple. So when you get to later rounds, you still want to make sure that you have a good couple of people. And to do that, you have to kind of look deeper into this and see who you can get in what rounds and how much value you think they're going to bring to you. For me, I'm going to give you guys a couple of people who I think are really important, and we're going to start off with quarterbacks. So the first quarterback we're going to be looking at is Matt Stafford. On Fantasy Football Calculator, Matt Stafford is the 10th quarterback taken in around the 8th to 9th round. And that's a great value for what he's going to be able to bring to your team. Stafford has two great wide receivers, and the offense mostly runs through him. So I'm expecting big things from him already, and because he has such a good value, he's a great pick. Stafford finished 7th among quarterbacks last year, and he never really dropped below double-digit points last year for this whole season. So that's something to look forward to because he's pretty consistent, doesn't get injured a whole lot, and he does have a lot of weapons to work with, and the offense runs through him. So there's not much to dislike about Stafford. Next, we got Phillip Rivers. As you guys may have noticed, I'm kind of a big Chargers guy this year. I think that he's going to be really good, and I'm looking forward to see what he can do. Now, it does suck that Hunter Henry's gone. Like, that blows for him and the Chargers because we were all expecting big things from him, but now we know we're going to have to work with something else. So he's got Keenan Allen still, Melvin Gordon, who are both great players and should go within the first 2 rounds. And not to mention Mike Williams, who's coming in, who I'm going to talk about him later because he's one of the wide receivers that I like this year. So Stafford is going off or Phillip Rivers is going off around the 9th round. So that's another good value pick that you can wait on and actually have him be pretty good. And finish 8th right below Stafford in points last year. So those two guys are great picks that you can get pretty late in drafts. Next one that we have here is Patrick Mahomes. So he's a rookie. I get it. More or less a rookie because this is his first year really starting on the team. We don't have a whole lot to go off of. So for his sophomore season, he has been given a lot of good weapons. He is Tyreek Hill, which we all agree that he's pretty good. Sammy Watkins, who I'm not a big fan of this year, but as a weapon for Mahomes, he's going to be great. Kareem Hunt, who is fantastic too. We all know that. He should be going around the first or second round in fantasy. And then there's also Travis Kelce, who is their big tight end and should be eating up a lot of targets from Mahomes. So Mahomes is going real late, going around the 11th round. So he could be your backup quarterback if you actually ended up getting Stafford or Rivers, which I like a lot because he's a highly skilled guy. And there's still a chance that he's able to actually go and break out this year and actually end up being a top 10 quarterback, which really wouldn't surprise me given the weapons that he has. So now that we look at quarterbacks, we're going to go to running backs really quick. First people I'm going to talk to you about is a duo in Chicago with Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen. So these two guys, obviously I like. I'm a Bears fan. That's really not a secret. If you look behind me, I got a big Bears thing. So both of them, honestly, I feel are going to be just fine this year. I think that Nagy is definitely going to be looking to use Cohen much more than we did last year, and just because he brings so much of a spark to the Bears offense. So I'm expecting big things from him this year, but also I'm not really expecting him to get as many carries or take away carries from Howard because Howard was probably the biggest bright spot that the Bears had besides Trubisky looking good, which even then, Howard was the best player on the Bears offense last year. So there's no way that they're just going to take the ball out of his hands. I'm still expecting big things from both of them. So Howard is going around the second round in Fantasy Football Calculator, but at a lot of different places they have him ranked really low, so he might not actually be going that late. He might be going actually a lot later. Then we take a look at Cohen. Cohen is much farther down the list at around 8. So in the 8th round, if you're looking for a guy who can possibly be like a flex or just someone to stack up your bench, Cohen's definitely a good bet. He has a lot of upside. Even though we're not totally sure what's going to happen with him, he's still a pretty safe pick at around 8 if you're looking for a running back. Last person to talk about is Chris Carson on the Seattle Seahawks. He had a decent year last year before he got injured. He was actually putting up a decent amount of points and looked like he was going to take over the running back spot for Seattle. But that didn't work out because of his injury, and he was out the rest of the season, which is really rough for the Seahawks and him. Chris Carson is in a battle with Rashard Penny to get the starting spot between those two running backs, so it's going to be kind of close, but he does still have some value going in. He's a much later pick, kind of a sleeper guy that you really shouldn't be pushing too hard to get, but he could be good, so it's worth noting. And wouldn't be terrible to draft him because if you're looking that late for running backs, like anything's possible, anything's worth it, you know? So the first wide receiver we got for you really won't surprise anybody. It's Stephon Diggs. He's extremely valuable just because of the chemistry that you can already kind of see between him and Kirk Cousins. And I know that he's a pretty easy pick for most people, and a lot of people are big on him, but I am getting really big on him because I'm seeing like what he's doing with Cousins and how they like look together, and I think that Diggs is in for probably his best year yet. And I think he could be wide receiver 1 this year with a lot of touchdowns and a lot of catches, a lot of yards. So the next guy we got now is going to be Will Fuller. I'm not the only one to be pretty big on Will Fuller, considering take a look at what he did last year with his 4 games with Deshaun Watson, and you kind of see what I'm getting at. Over 4 games, he went ahead and caught 7 touchdown passes, which is insane. And so with all those points that were coming down, you have to assume that Watson's going to throw to him a lot again too. Now, I'm not expecting like, touchdown every game type of thing or 2 touchdowns every week or whatever crazy numbers he put up in the first 4 games, but I am still expecting some good, decent value where he's getting a lot of catches, he's getting a few touchdowns, he's being used well in their offense, and I expect that to be happening a lot because he just overall is a really good player who is kind of underrated. So next we're going to look at Mike Williams. Didn't really do anything last year. He was injured coming into last season. Was able to actually hit the field. Didn't put up a whole lot of numbers or a lot of good numbers or really anything. But this year I think that with Hunter Henry gone and them trying to make a push for playoffs, I think they're going to use their best players, and I think Mike Williams is an extremely talented wide receiver, and he will be used a lot in this offense. He's got a lot to prove, but because he is going in the 10th round in the Fantasy Football Calculator, I'm feeling pretty good about being able to pick him up without much of a problem. Great player. I think that everyone should definitely take an in-depth look at him and kind of see what they think. But you can guarantee that I will be drafting him in a couple of my leagues. And on to the last one, we're going to look at three tight ends who I think are going to be very good this year. Start off with Evan Ingram. The dude was a monster last year, coming out of absolutely nowhere. So Evan Ingram finished 5th among tight ends last year, only playing 15 games, so that's pretty good. Only people that finished above him were Jimmy Graham, Zach Ertz, Kelsey, and Gronk. Big surprise on Gronk, right? So he's looking like an absolute stud from the tight end position, especially because he's going into his 2nd year and he's already this good. So he's going around in the 6th round, which I think is fantastic. And I think if you see him there and you want a solid tight end, pick him up because I think he is a tremendous value, especially at the 6th round. That's totally understandable because at this point you're already going to probably have 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers and maybe even a quarterback. So I think that picking him up at 6 is definitely a good spot. Next on our list, we have David Njoku. I've been looking at him a lot through last year. I was big on him last year because I think he's in my dynasty team, and I just really like him because he is an athlete. He works really well and works really hard and can make some great plays. And I think that he's going to create a good connection with Tyrod Taylor and eventually Baker Mayfield. And I think that he's going to be a great pickup. So you take a look at what he can do, what he has been doing, and I'm really excited for him. So we're going to look at his projected draft, which is around the 11th round, which is fantastic. That's really late. If you want, you can get him as a backup tight end or even as your first guy, but I wouldn't recommend that because you still don't know about him. He's still question mark. He's a sleeper, so there's nothing too crazy going on there. But I think he looks really good, and I think people should definitely look into drafting him. So we're going to bounce up back around the top of the draft for this next guy, and this is Kyle Rudolph. Kirk Cousins loves his tight ends. You could see from Jordan Reed that they had a great connection for a little bit. Kyle Rudolph is already a great tight end. Finished top 10 tight ends last year at number 6, looking fantastic. He's not like a guy that you would love to have in your team, but I think that he could definitely he's definitely in a spot where he's going to put up more points this year than he did last. And I think that he could be pretty solid. Now, fantasy calculators got him going around the 7th round, which I don't love because if I don't have one of those top 6 guys, Gronkowski, Kelsey, Ertz, Graham, Olsen, Ingram, I'm not really looking for anyone on there except for probably Njoku later on or just something real late. So you could go for Rudolph if you want to spend if you want to get a little pricey with your pick, but if not, that's totally fine too. I think that works really well no matter who you really get. So this has been this week's video. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all those great things. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter. Hope you guys all really enjoyed this video. I will be leaving links in the description to all the websites used in the making of this video. And thank you guys all so much. See you next week.